In this video, we are going to talk about relationships and interaction between objects in a Java program. So far, we've only really just created one class. I mean, we have this tester class, but it really is just this bank account class that we've created to actually define a specific object. So in this video, we are going to create another object, and then we are going to make those two objects interact with each other. This bank account object and then another object will make them interact with each other. So this other class that we will create is going to be a bank class. And then using the bank class, we will create a bank object, and that bank object is going to interact with a couple of bank account objects. We'll just make it very simple. We'll just make it two bank account objects. So we will have one bank and one bank account and two bank account objects. So the point of this demonstration is to show you an example of how objects can interact with each other. All right. So I'm going to close this bank account tester. I'll leave bank account.java open, and then I am going to create a new class. So let's make a new file. So let's name this one bank.java. So let's just go ahead and split our window here. All right. So what we're going to do here is we are going to create a bank class, and a bank class is going to be composed of bank account objects. And instead of depositing and withdrawing directly into the bank account, we would deposit or withdraw to these bank accounts through the bank object. So we would say we would deposit in the bank and then perhaps specify the name of the account and then the amount. And then that amount is going to get credited to the correct bank account. So instead of directly accessing the bank accounts to make deposits and withdrawals, we are going to do that through the bank object instead. All right, so let's go ahead and make the class. So public class bank. And then, so we're just gonna have a very small bank. So for now, our bank is only going to have two bank accounts. So let's go ahead and make fields for those two bank accounts. Okay, so the data type will be bank account, and then we'll make them private as well. So this one is going to be a bank account for John. So let's name the field name John. And then let's make another one, Marcia. All right. So our bank is very small. We only have two customers, John and Marcia. And then when we instantiate a bank, so let's just make a default constructor. So when we instantiate a bank object, it's going to have two bank account instances, one for John and one for Marcia. So here we will initialize the bank account fields that we have. So John is equal to, so let's create a new bank account. So the name will be John, and let's give John 1000. So this is going to call this constructor, this one. And then Marcia is equal to new bank account. And then Marcia gets 2000. Okay, so from within this new class that we're making, we are actually instantiating two bank account objects. So these are objects of the bank account type, which we derived from a different class. So here you see that they have a relationship with each other now. These two classes are now interacting with each other. All right. And then from here, let's make a deposit method that allows us to specify an account name and an amount, and then the bank would then deposit to the correct account. Okay, so let's name that method deposit as well. So two different classes can have the same name for methods. That's fine. So this one is going to have two parameters. So we want to specify the name, so the account name, and then we want to specify the amount that we want to deposit. So whenever we call this method of the bank class, so we're referring to the deposit of the bank class here, not the deposit method of the bank account. So they may have the same name, but these are two different methods. For one, they don't even have the same method signature. As you can see here, the parameter list is different. So they really just have the same name, but the parameter list is different, and also they belong to different classes. Now from within here, so when we call the deposit method of the bank class, we specify a name and an amount, and then we want to check. Let's go ahead and put an if statement here. If the name that was specified, so if the value of name equals, so this is how you would compare strings. If the value of name equals John, then we want to deposit to the John bank account. So that's the name of the field here. So it didn't have to be John. It could have been just J, or it could have been X. I mean, it could have been a completely different name. It doesn't matter as long as you assign the instance to that specific field. So we say John.deposit. Okay. So there's no confusion here because we're calling deposit on the John object. So John is a field that references a bank account object. So when you call deposit here, it's going to call the deposit method of the bank account class on this specific instance, the John instance. So here we want to deposit whatever the value of amount is. So we say AMT. So from the bank object, we call its deposit method, and then the deposit method will eventually call the deposit method of the correct account. And then let's write another if statement. So this one is going to check if the value that was passed to the name parameter equals, in this case, Marsha, then we are going to go ahead and deposit to the Marsha account instead. All right. So let's go ahead and try that. So let's go ahead and try this now. Okay. So let's make a new class. Let's make it, let's name it bank tester. Okay, public class bank tester. And then public static void main string args. And then let's create a new bank. Bank B is equal to new bank. All right. So once we instantiate a bank object, this bank object is then going to instantiate two bank accounts. So one's going to be assigned to John, and then another is going to be assigned to Marsha. Right? So we can visualize that like this. So when we instantiate a new bank object, so bank B is equal to new bank. Let's just move this a bit. All right. Okay. Let's put that here. So this one is going to create a new bank object. Okay. So we've got our bank object here, right? So in this bank tester, it's assigned to a variable or a variable named B. And then inside the bank object, when we create it, the constructor actually creates two bank accounts. Okay, so inside this one, so we're going to have the John bank account. And we're going to have the Marsha bank account as well. All right. So John is going to have an account name of John and a balance of 1,000. Okay. So let me just write the balance here just to save some space. I won't repeat writing the account name. Okay. So we've got the John account and then the Marsha account. Okay. And then the bank object has a deposit method because that is how we define it in the bank class. So the bank class has a deposit. So every bank object you make is going to have a deposit method. Okay. So this deposit method accepts a string for the name and then a double for the balance. All right, so you can visualize it this way. When we create this new bank object, it creates a new bank. And inside that bank, we actually have two objects inside it, two objects of the bank account type. And then inside the bank class, we have a deposit method. So our bank can deposit into a specific bank account. All right. So let's go back here. So let's say b dot deposit. And then let's deposit to John's account. And then let's deposit 500. Then let's make another deposit, 100. Same account, John. And then let's go ahead and make a deposit, this time to the Marsha account. So let's deposit 1,000. All right. So in this first call to deposit, the string John is going to be passed to name, and the number 500 is going to be passed to amount or AMT. So we go inside the method and then we encounter an if statement. The value of name in this specific method call is in fact equal to John. So we go inside here, and then this one, John deposit amount, is now going to end up calling the deposit method of the bank account assigned to the John field. So AMT, so AMT is 500. The value of this is now going to get passed to the AMT parameter, but this time of the deposit method in the bank account class. So AMT then gets added to the balance. So at this point, John's balance is going to be from 1,000 is now going to be 1,500. And then we make another deposit, so the same thing happens. So we're passing John again, and then this time a value of 100. So name is equal to John, AMT is equal to 100. if name dot equals John. So we go in here, and then we call the deposit method of the bank account class and pass to it an amount, a value of 100. It gets stored in amount, and then that value gets added to the balance. So now the balance is 1,600 at this point. And then finally, we've got another deposit method. So this one specifies the name of Marcia and an amount of 1,000. So here, Marcia goes to name, and then 1,000 goes to AMT. If name dot equals John is false, because this time the name is Marcia. So we go inside here. If name dot equals Marcia, so this is now true. So this if statement is going to go ahead and call Marcia dot deposit AMT. So I forgot a couple of things. I forgot my semicolons here. All right. Okay. So this is now going to call the deposit method of the bank account class. It's going to call it on the Marcia object this time. So AMT has a value of 1,000. It's going to get passed here. And then balance plus equals AMT will make the balance of the Marcia bank account 3,000 now. From 2,000, it's going to go up to 3,000. All right. So let's go ahead and let's save this. Let's just test it to see if we're going to get errors or not. Right now, we're actually not going to get any output. That's because we're not printing anything. Let's just compile. So bank tester has an error because I do not have a closing curly brace for this one. All right, so there. So let's save that, and let's go ahead and run this. Compile this first, and then let's go ahead and run it. And you can see that nothing comes out. That's because we did not print anything out. There's no print statements in here. There's no print statements in here as well. And there's no print statement in the deposit method. We actually commented that one out. So what we're going to do here, though, is inside the bank class, let's create another method. So this is going to be a void method. The only thing this is going to do is it's going to loop through all of our bank accounts, and then it's going to go ahead and print out the balance. Now, since we only have two, actually, we don't need to make a loop. Let's just go ahead and manually call them one by one. So let's just call this one print balances. Okay. So inside here, we've got the John and Marcia objects, right? So we say John.getBalance, and then we actually print this out. So we say system.out.println, and then we say John balance plus John.getBalance, and then I will not forget the closing parentheses and the semicolon. All right. And then we say system.out.println again. So this one, we say Marcia balance plus Marcia.get balance. Okay, so inside the bank class, we added another method. So print balances. So this is a method that we call on a bank object. So we can call it on this one, right? So B is a bank object. We've constructed a new bank instance. And as you can see, the data type of B is bank as well. So we can go ahead and call b.printBalances. So when we call this, okay, so print balances is a method of the bank class. So we're calling it specifically on this bank object named B. So here in the bank class, we've got the print balances method. So what's inside here? Just two print statements that will print out the balance of John and Marcia's account. So John.getBalance. So this is a method of the bank account class, right? Because John is a bank account object. So this one is going to end up calling this method. And then it's going to return the balance of John, which at this point should be 1,600. And then it's going to do the same thing for Marcia. So Marcia.getBalance is going to call the getBalance method on the Marcia object. So this one should return 3,000, right? Okay, so let's save this. And then let's go ahead and save this one as well. And then let's go ahead and recompile it. No errors, good. And then let's go ahead and run it. And then here we see that we see our expected output. So John's balance is 1,600, and then Marcia's balance is 3,000. What did I do? I accidentally moved something. What was that? Oh, I copy paste. I ended up moving this and it executed it as a command. So just ignore that. All right. So let's just run that again. Java Bank Tester. Let's clear it. And then let's run it again. Java Bank Tester. There. Okay. All right. So this is just a very simple example of interaction between objects. So what we have here is this is called a composition relationship in this case, because what we have here is a class, the bank class, which is composed of bank account objects. So the relationship between bank and bank account in this case is called a composition relationship. So a bank is composed of bank accounts. And then through the bank, we deposit through the bank, we get to deposit through to the correct bank account objects by way of the deposit method, which takes a string, which is going to allow us to specify the name of the bank account, and then the amount, which allows us to specify the amount that we want to deposit. So right now we're actually not making use of the account name. So as you can see, we're hard coding things in here. So I mean, I could actually just call this something else. I could put a different condition in here. I could say Bob, right? And then if I say deposit Bob 500, deposit Bob 500, then my code's still going to work. It's going to deposit to the object that is referenced by the John field, which is the bank account that has an account name of John. Okay, so right now we're really not making use of this yet. But in the future, we're going to edit this so that we can actually search through the bank accounts and then find a matching bank account based on the name. But that's going to be for a future lesson. So in this case, let's just go ahead and bring this back. All right, so this is just one example to show you how different classes can interact with each other. Again, very simple example. So this is a composition relationship. All right, so in another video, we'll take a look at another example.